On the distant alien planet of Terek 9, millions are dying. The once thriving world is now crumbling as a mysterious plague spreads rapidly across the population. The sky, once bright with advanced city skylines, is now dimmed by smoke and dust. The plague is unlike anything the inhabitants have ever encountered, and no one knows how to stop it. The air itself seems thick with despair as citizens fall ill at an alarming rate. In the central hub of the capital city, Commander Raylan Vec is seen rushing down the corridors of the once thriving military complex. The sound of his boots echo against the walls, but it's the quiet desperation of his thoughts that fills his mind. He passes through room after room, where medics and soldiers work tirelessly to treat the dying. But it's clear that their efforts are in vain. The disease spreads faster than they can heal. Technology is failing. The advanced systems they relied on for everything from communication to healthcare are malfunctioning, leaving the planet in chaos. The advanced alien technology that once made Terek 9 the envy of the galaxy is now a burden, as nothing seems to work as it should. Raylan enters a large chamber where the Galactic Council has gathered. The room is filled with some of the most powerful and wise leaders in the galaxy, all alien races united to maintain order and peace. They should have been able to handle this crisis. They should have found a solution by now. But instead, the council members look just as exhausted as the rest of the planet's citizens, their faces tired and defeated. The air in the room feels thick with failure. "I've tried everything," Raylan says, his voice low but urgent. "The virus is evolving. It's adapting to our technology. Our medical systems can't keep up. The citizens are..." There, he doesn't finish the sentence. His eyes, filled with anguish, scan the room. The other council members look away. They all know the grim truth. Their civilization is dying, but no one has a solution. The leaders begin speaking over one another in panic, suggesting possible solutions that are immediately shot down. There's nothing they can do. The plague spreads like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. Every attempt to find a cure, every possible tactic to stop it has failed. For a moment, the room falls silent. It's a quiet so deep, it's almost deafening. And then, a voice cuts through the tension. It's Raylan's voice again, but this time, it carries something different, something unexpected. "What if we called them?" Raylan suggests. The room goes still. Eyes widen. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Call who?" asks Senator Grithel, an older, wiser alien. His voice is filled with suspicion, though his expression reveals a hint of curiosity. "We call the humans," Raylan repeats, his gaze firm. "We need them." For a long moment, the room is filled with shocked silence. Some of the council members stare at him in disbelief, as if he has just suggested they turn to the stars for help from a race of mythical creatures. Humans. The very name sends a chill through the room. They are considered unpredictable, dangerous, and most importantly, chaotic. For centuries, humanity has been isolated from the galactic community. The idea of calling them for help is unthinkable, almost absurd. Their reputation is well known. Humans are reckless and warlike, prone to violence and emotional outbursts. They don't play by the rules, and in the eyes of many, they are nothing more than a primitive species, far too uncivilized to help in any significant way. Senator Grithel's voice shakes slightly as he addresses Raylan. "You can't be serious. The humans are. They are nothing like us. They're wild, unrefined. They're unpredictable. I'm aware of how they're seen," Raylan says, his voice calm but unyielding. "But our situation is dire. We've tried everything, and we're failing. If we don't act now, Terek 9 will be lost. The plague, the technology breakdown, it's all too much. We need their help. We need the humans." The room murmurs with disbelief. Some council members look hesitant, but others begin to nod, the reality of their situation settling in. The plague shows no signs of slowing down, and their planet is on the verge of collapse. Desperation has begun to outweigh fear. Raylan takes a deep breath and steps forward. They have survived on their world for centuries, against all odds. They've fought wars, endured plagues, and faced enemies far more powerful than they are. The humans may be wild and unpredictable, but they have something we've forgotten: the will to fight. And that might be exactly what we need. The room remains tense, but now there is a sense of understanding in the air. Some council members begin to consider Raylan's idea, their minds turning over the possibilities. The situation is desperate enough to warrant such a radical move. The plague is killing millions, and nothing else is working. Could they truly rely on humanity's brute force to save them? Could they trust that humans, with all their faults, might hold the key to their survival? Finally, Grand Chancellor Xulfar, an ancient alien whose race is known for its wisdom, speaks up. His voice is grave but decisive. If we send for them, there's no going back. The humans are unpredictable. They could make the situation worse. We have no choice, Raylan says, his voice firm, but filled with the weight of his decision. We can't afford to sit here and wait. Millions of lives are at stake. I'm willing to take the risk. A heavy silence follows, but one by one, the council members begin to nod. There is no other choice. Raylan has convinced them that humanity might just be their last hope. Then let the message be sent, the Grand Chancellor declares. We will call upon Earth. We'll send a message, and we'll see if they answer. Raylan nods. He knows that the message to Earth must be sent immediately. There is no time to waste. The countdown has begun. As the transmission begins to transmit across the vastness of space, Raylan watches through the Council's observation window as the signal is sent toward Earth. The message is simple, but urgent. We need your help. The plague is killing us. Come to Terek 9. We need the humans. And just like that, the message is sent. The countdown to Earth's arrival has begun. In the distance, across the galaxy, Earth's response will soon be known. Raylan turns away from the window, knowing that the fate of Terek 9 is now in the hands of a race unlike any other. A race that is feared and respected across the galaxy. A race that might just be humanity's last hope. On Earth, the situation couldn't have been more different. Commander Ethan Carter, a battle-hardened human leader, was in the middle of a routine war simulation when the distress signal from the Galactic Council came through. The simulation was a mock battle designed to test his team's readiness for any threat, but it was suddenly interrupted by an incoming transmission that shifted the course of everything. Ethan was no stranger to chaos, having led humanity through countless battles, both on Earth and in space. But this was different. A cry for help from an alien civilization, a call for humanity to fight a battle on the other side of the galaxy. His strong, imposing figure stood tall in front of the large communication console. The moment the message from Terek 9 played, Ethan's expression grew serious. It wasn't just a distress signal, it was desperate. He could hear the desperation in the voice of the alien commander, Raylan Vec. The words were clear, but the tone was one of complete and utter despair. We need your help. The plague is killing us. Come to Terek 9. We need the humans. Ethan had dealt with intergalactic politics before, but the request sent a chill down his spine. Humans were the underdogs in the galaxy. Their technology was not as advanced as some of the alien species, but humanity's strength lay in its will to survive, its determination to fight, and its unyielding courage. He quickly called his most trusted officers into the briefing room. They gathered around him as Ethan replayed the message. His team, all seasoned veterans, listened intently. The faces around the room showed no surprise. They had all been trained for unexpected missions, but this one was different. They were about to embark on a mission across the stars to save an alien civilization from a plague. It felt surreal, yet the urgency of the situation was undeniable. Dr. Alara Vex, an alien scientist who had once been part of the Galactic Council, stood to the side. her arms crossed. Her sharp eyes glinted with a mixture of frustration and anger. Alara had once helped the Council with their advanced technology, but after seeing their failure to protect their people and prevent this catastrophe, she had left their ranks. She now lived on Earth, sharing her knowledge with humanity, but her disillusionment with the Council was clear. She wasn't the biggest fan of alien races, but the plea for help tugged at something inside her. If the Galactic Council couldn't handle it, how do you think we will? Alara spoke up, her voice low but pointed. Ethan didn't flinch. He had heard her doubts before, but he knew that when it came down to it, humans would always rise to the occasion. We're going to do what they couldn't, Ethan replied firmly. We're going to win this, for them and for us. The team was silent for a moment, and then one by one, they nodded. The plan was set in motion. Ethan's team would prepare for the journey to Terek 9. They had no time to waste. A small fleet of ships would be assembled, equipped with the latest human-made technology, cloaking devices that would allow them to approach the planet without being detected. Advanced weaponry, including laser cannons and plasma rifles, would be included in their arsenal. This wasn't just a rescue mission. It was going to be a full-out war against the plague and the rogueide that had caused it. In the command center, Ethan began briefing his team on the mission parameters. The team consisted of Captain Sarah Knox, a fierce pilot with unmatched speed and precision, Lieutenant Jared Holt, a weapons expert, and Dr. Ian Voss, a scientist who specialized in AI systems. Alara was joining them, of course, as their alien specialist. She would be key in understanding the alien technology they might encounter, but also in helping them navigate the complexities of Terek 9 society. As Ethan spoke, his mind raced through the possibilities. The mission would not be without risks. Their ships would be outnumbered by alien forces. The AI that controlled the galaxy was a threat in itself, but Raylan had said it was the plague that was most dangerous. If they didn't find a way to stop it, millions would die. Everyone on this team knows what's at stake, Ethan continued, his voice steady and commanding. This isn't just a fight for Terek 9. This is a fight for every living being who will face this plague in the future. We're not just rescuing them. We're making a stand. The room went silent as they all absorbed his words. They had all faced challenges before, but this mission was unlike any other. They weren't just going into a war zone. They were entering the unknown, a place where everything about the enemy was different. The galaxy had seen humanity as a primitive species, but now they were the last hope. As preparations began, Ethan stood at the observation deck, looking out over Earth. It was strange to think that a place so familiar could feel so distant. But now he was about to take the fight to another planet, to face an alien threat far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. The fleet was ready. Ethan's team boarded their ships, which were equipped with cloaking technology that made them nearly invisible to enemy radar. As they took off, the sky above Earth was clear, but in moments they disappeared into the vast expanse of space. The journey to Terek 9 would take time, but with their cloaking devices and the high-speed engines on their ships, they were ready to strike fast and hard. The mission was a secret, as the Galactic Council had kept their call for help quiet, fearing the political ramifications of turning to humanity for aid. But once the humans arrived, there would be no turning back. Their presence on Terek 9 would send a message that no one could ignore. The arrival was nothing short of spectacular. For the alien leaders of Terek 9, the first sign of humanity's arrival was the sudden shredding of the sky. One moment, the planet was quiet, its atmosphere thick with despair. And the next, humanity's ships appeared out of nowhere. The ships cloaked in secrecy flickered into view, sending a wave of terror through the ranks of the alien commanders. They had heard about humans, their chaotic, unpredictable nature, but they had never seen them up close. Now the humans were here, and they were a force to be reckoned with. Ethan stood at the helm of the lead ship, his eyes narrowed as he looked at the planet below. He knew the gravity of the situation. The team's arrival was not just a sign of hope for the inhabitants of Terek 9. It was a symbol of humanity's ability to rise above and take on any challenge. "Prepare for landing," Ethan ordered, his voice calm but full of purpose. Dr. Kara Rook had been a key figure in humanity's defense against the Zrax. A brilliant scientist, her inventions had given the human fleet a fighting chance. The cloaking devices, AI-guided weapons, and railguns that had turned the tide of battle all bore her signature. But despite her contributions, something about Dr. Rook had always seemed off to Captain Alex Turner. She was too calm, too collected, especially when lives were being lost in the heat of battle. He'd always pushed his doubts aside, choosing to trust her expertise over his suspicions. But as the battle grew fiercer, the truth began to surface in a way no one could ignore. It started when a transmission was intercepted by Earth's intelligence division. A decrypted message, one that Alex had never thought possible, revealed the shocking truth. Dr. Kara Rook had once been a collaborator with the Zrax. She had worked on a Zrak research facility, helping them develop the very weapons that had nearly wiped out entire civilizations. Her knowledge had been instrumental in the Zrak's technological advances. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. The very woman who had helped humanity build the weapons to fight the Zrax was the same one who had helped the Zrax build their arsenal. The irony was almost too much to bear. How could she betray her own people, only to later turn against them when it was too late? And why hadn't she told them? The questions came flooding in, and the answers were elusive. Alex stood on the bridge of his ship, his face tight with anger and disbelief. The crew around him was in shock, murmurs of betrayal swirling through the air. The battle, which had been going in humanity's favor, suddenly seemed secondary. The realization that one of their own had been working with the enemy made everything else feel uncertain. How could they trust Dr. Rook now? But the truth was, Dr. Rook wasn't the enemy anymore. She wasn't the same person she had been when she worked for the Zrax. The guilt of her past weighed heavily on her shoulders, and the countless lives lost because of her research haunted her every waking moment. She had helped the Zrax because she had believed in their cause. But the atrocities committed by the aliens had shaken her to her core. The day she realized the full extent of the Zrax cruelty, the death of innocent civilians, the destruction of entire worlds, she knew she had to make a choice. The guilt of her past was something she could never undo, but helping the humans was her way of redemption. The truth came to light during a crucial battle. The human fleet was about to engage a massive Zrak battalion that had been holding the line in a critical sector. If they could defeat them, they would cripple the Zrak's war efforts for good. But just as the fleet was preparing to launch a full-scale attack, an unexpected transmission from the enemy cut through the comms. "Dr. Kara Rook," the voice on the other end hissed, "you think you can escape the consequences of your actions." The crew on the bridge froze. Alex's heart skipped a beat. It was a Zrak transmission. And the voice was unmistakable. It was one of the Zrak commanders, a figure from Rook's past. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud, and the truth hit Alex with the force of a wrecking ball. They had known. The Zrax knew about Rook's betrayal. The crew's reaction was instant. Whispers of distrust spread like wildfire. The first officer, Lieutenant Bonner, looked at Alex, his face grim. "Captain, what do we do now? She's one of them. Can we trust her?" Alex's gaze shifted to Dr. Rook, who stood silently in the corner of the room. Her face was pale, her eyes filled with regret. She had never meant for any of this to happen. The realization that she had played a part in the destruction of countless innocent lives was a burden she carried alone. But she had a chance to make things right, and she wasn't going to let the Zrax win. Not again. "Dr. Rook," Alex said, his voice cold but resolute, "explain yourself." She stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. "I never wanted this. I was forced to help them. They promised me the future of humanity, but instead they used my work to destroy everything I cared about. I had to leave, had to turn my back on them. I had to fight for humanity, for redemption." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of her confession. Alex stared at her, torn between the betrayal of her past and the desperate need to trust her for the sake of the mission. His mind raced as the crew waited for his decision. They were in the middle of a battle, and every second counted. But trusting Rook now felt like a gamble. He had to make a choice, and it had to be the right one. "Stay with us, Dr. Rook," Alex said finally. "We need you to help us finish this. You know their weapons better than anyone. But if you betray us again, I'll deal with it." "I was sent to Earth to scout," Lyra continued, her voice trembling slightly. "But when I arrived, things went wrong. My people, they betrayed me. They left me behind. I wasn't supposed to end up here. I didn't ask for this." Jack's grip on the wheel tightened as he processed her words. Betrayal. It was a theme he knew all too well. He had lost everything once, everything that mattered to him. His family, his home. The memories were still sharp in his mind. He had been left alone in a world that didn't care, much like Lyra. And now, here they were, two broken souls fighting for survival in a world that didn't want them. "I get it," Jack said quietly, his voice almost a whisper. "I've been where you are. I lost my family, everything I had. But you're not alone anymore. I'm here, and I'm going to make sure you get out of this." Lyra didn't respond immediately, but Jack could feel the shift in the air between them. The unspoken bond that had begun to form between them was palpable. It wasn't just about survival anymore. They were in this together, two strangers connected by their pain, their loss, and now their fight for survival. The sound of alien ships suddenly filled the air, their engines roaring like predators in pursuit. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He glanced at the monitors and saw the red blips of the alien ships closing in. The cloaking device wasn't going to hold much longer. They needed to make it to the hidden base, a secret military outpost deep in the mountains. It was their only chance. "Hold on," Jack said, his voice steady. He slammed his foot on the accelerator, and the vehicle surged forward, weaving expertly through the trees. The cloaking device shimmered, distorting the surroundings as they moved at breakneck speed. But Jack knew it wouldn't be enough to shake the alien ships for long. The technology on their side was too advanced. Lyra's fingers moved quickly over the holographic interface, activating the ship's weapons system. She didn't have to speak. Jack knew what she was doing. She was using her alien tech to give them an edge. Together, they were a formidable team. The vehicle bounced over uneven terrain, and Jack gritted his teeth as he focused on the road ahead. He couldn't afford to make a mistake. The alien ships were close now, their sensors scanning the area. One wrong move, and they'd be exposed. Suddenly, the vehicle's alarms went off, a shrill sound filling the air. Jack's eyes flicked to the radar, and his heart raced as he saw a red blip moving directly toward them. One of the alien ships had found them. "Get ready," Jack muttered, his hand tightening on the controls. He activated the weapons system and slammed a button, launching a burst of energy towards the incoming ship. The explosion was deafening, sending a shockwave through the trees. The alien ship faltered, but it wasn't enough to stop them. They were still being chased. Lyra's voice was calm but urgent. "We have to go faster, Jack. They're not going to stop. We need to get to the base. Now." Jack's jaw clenched as he pushed the vehicle to its limits. The forest blurred around them as they sped toward the mountains. They could see the hidden base in the distance, nestled deep in the valley, but it felt like an eternity away. As they neared the base, Jack heard the roar of the alien ships behind them, growing louder. There wasn't time to lose. He could feel the pressure building in his chest as the vehicle sped through the trees, the base growing larger in his vision. The cloaking device flickered, barely holding together as the alien ships tried to lock onto their position. Lyra's hands flew over the controls, activating the last line of defense. "We can make it," she said, determination in her voice. "Just a little further." Jack didn't answer. He didn't need to. The base was so close now. With a final push, Jack surged forward, the vehicle barreling through the forest and into the safety of the base. The doors closed behind them, just as the alien ships entered the clearing, their weapons firing. But the moment the door to the base shut behind them, Jack let out a sigh of relief. They had made it, but something in the air felt off. The hum of the base's emergency lights, the slight tremor in the ground beneath their feet, and the unsettling silence told Jack that they weren't safe yet. The aliens had tracked them this far, and now they had to face the real danger. Inside the base, Jack quickly began securing their position. The high-tech walls around them were designed to protect, but Jack knew that even the best defenses could be compromised if the enemy was persistent enough. Lyra stood by his side, scanning the screens and monitoring the alien forces outside. Her face was tense, the pale light from the control panels casting a shadow across her features. "We're not alone, Jack," Lyra said, her voice low but filled with certainty. "They found us." Jack's heart skipped a beat. He had hoped they could catch a break, but deep down, he knew the alien forces wouldn't stop until they had her. The fight was far from over. Turning to Lyra, Jack's eyes met hers, a mix of determination and fear in both of them. "We've made it this far. We'll keep fighting, whatever it takes." Lyra nodded, but her eyes were haunted, as if she could see the vast army of alien soldiers closing in. She wasn't just afraid for herself. She was afraid for Jack, too. The burden of the mission, of being hunted, was more than just physical. It was emotional, and Lyra felt it in every fiber of her being. Suddenly, the ground shook. A loud boom echoed through the base. Jack gripped the wall, steadying himself as the vibration subsided. Lyra's fingers flew over the control panel, her eyes scanning the data. "They've breached the outer perimeter," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "They'll be here in minutes." Jack cursed under his breath. There was no time to waste. They had to prepare for battle. His military training kicked in, and he quickly assessed their options. The base wasn't equipped for a full-scale invasion, but it did have several secret weapons. He was familiar with the defense systems, and they were about to become their best friend. "We don't have much time," Jack said. "We'll have to fight our way out. I'll take point. You're with me." Lyra looked at him, her expression unreadable, but Jack could see the fear hidden beneath her calm facade. She had been running from the aliens for too long, and now the confrontation was inevitable. Jack knew the fight would be brutal, but they had no choice. As they moved deeper into the base, Jack's mind raced. The alien soldiers would have advanced technology, force fields, cloaking devices, and possibly even more deadly weapons. But Jack had something they didn't: human ingenuity. It had gotten him out of tight spots before, and it would have to work again. The base's corridors were narrow, the lights flickering as the security systems struggled to keep up with the oncoming assault. They moved swiftly, Jack leading the way with his weapons at the ready. Lyra was close behind, her alien technology adding an extra layer of firepower to their arsenal. "Stay close," Jack whispered, his voice low but steady. As they reached the main control room, the door slammed open with a violent force. Jack barely had time to react. A group of alien soldiers stormed in, their glowing eyes fixed on Jack and Lyra. They were tall, their armor sleek and deadly, with advanced weapons aimed directly at them. Jack didn't hesitate. He dove behind a nearby pillar, narrowly avoiding the first blast. His heart raced, but his mind was calm, calculating. He could hear the heavy footsteps of the alien soldiers as they approached, their weapons charging. Lyra didn't need instructions. She was already on the move, her hands weaving through the air as she activated the defense systems within the base. Sparks flew from the walls as energy barriers erupted, but the aliens were quick to adapt. One of them fired a blast, and Jack barely managed to dodge it. His muscles burned from the effort, but he knew he had to keep moving. In a split second, Jack saw his opening. One of the aliens was distracted, its attention focused on Lyra as she worked to hack into the control systems. Jack sprang into action, using his agility to close the distance between them. With a swift motion, he kicked the alien's weapon out of its hand and delivered a devastating punch to its side, sending it crashing into the wall. But there was no time to savor the victory. Another alien soldier charged at him, its glowing eyes narrowed in rage. Jack barely had time to draw his weapon before the soldier was upon him, its clawed hands reaching for his throat. Lyra's voice rang out just in time. "Jack, behind you." Jack twisted his body, narrowly avoiding the alien's attack. He spun around, using the momentum to land a powerful kick to the alien's chest. The creature staggered back, but it wasn't finished. It lunged at Jack again, but this time he was ready. He ducked and grabbed the alien's arm, twisting it behind its back and slamming it into the ground. Lyra was beside him now, her own weapon raised as she fired a burst of energy at another group of soldiers. The blast hit the wall, causing a massive explosion that sent debris flying in all directions. Jack grinned, impressed by her precision. She had come a long way since they first met, and now she was an essential part of their fight. The words hit Jake like a punch to the gut. For a moment, he couldn't process what she had just said. Lissa's daughter. But that didn't make sense. Lissa was young, far too young to be the daughter of someone like Derek Velos. She was strong, independent, and defiant. Everything he imagined someone like her would be. But this was different. "I know this must be hard to understand," Lissa continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "But my mother, she was a high-ranking officer in the Zephyrin military. She died when I was young. But before she passed, she uncovered something that could bring down the entire council." Jake leaned forward, his mind racing. This was bigger than he had thought. "What was it? What did your mother find?" Lissa's eyes darkened, and for a moment she looked almost haunted. She found evidence that the council was planning to manipulate the galaxy's resources for their own gain. They were using their power to control entire planets, to force other species into submission. She was going to expose them, but before she could, Derek had her killed. Jake's stomach twisted in knots. This wasn't just a family feud or a power struggle. This was about life and death on a galactic scale. "And you." "I was supposed to carry on her work," Lissa said, cutting him off. "She left me everything, every piece of information, every plan. But when I found out what Derek was really planning, I knew I had to run. I couldn't let him get his hands on it, and I couldn't let him control me either." Jake took a deep breath, trying to take it all in. He had always known that Lissa was running from something, but he never imagined it was this big. She wasn't just running from a cruel merchant. She was running from the entire power structure of her people. "I didn't want to tell you," Lissa continued, her voice trembling. "I thought it would only make things worse, but I can't keep hiding it from you. You're involved now, and if Derek finds out about you, he'll come for you too." Jake stood up and walked over to the small window of their safe house, staring out at the dark, vast emptiness of space. His mind was spinning. He had agreed to help Lissa without fully understanding what that meant. But now he saw the full picture. Derek Velos wasn't just after her because she was a runaway or a thief. He was after something far more valuable. A secret that could change the fate of entire worlds. "I didn't sign up for this, Lissa," Jake said, his voice rough. "This is bigger than anything I've ever dealt with. This isn't just about surviving. This is about taking down an empire." Lissa nodded, her eyes filled with unused tears. "I didn't ask for this either, Jake. But now we don't have a choice. I can't do this alone." Jake turned back to her, his mind made up. He wasn't going to walk away. He had already put himself into this mess, and now there was no turning back. He had already made a promise to her, to protect her. And that promise had just grown far more complicated. "I'm with you," Jake said, his voice firm. "No matter what happens, we'll face this together. But we need a plan. We can't just keep running." Lissa gave him a grateful smile, her eyes shining with a mix of relief and sadness. "Thank you," she whispered. Jake took a seat next to her, his mind working furiously. "We need to find a way to get that information. If Derek wants it so badly, it's got to be important. We have to figure out what it is and how we can use it to take him down." Lissa looked at him with a mixture of hope and fear. "I don't know how we'll do it, but we have to try. The Council is too powerful. If we can't stop them, no one will." For the first time since they had met, Jake felt a sense of determination growing inside him. This wasn't just about saving Lissa anymore. This was about standing up to a corrupt system, taking down the people who had been controlling the galaxy for far too long. They didn't have all the answers, but they had each other. And that, Jake realized, was all they needed to take on whatever came next. The tension between Jake and Lissa had reached a breaking point. It wasn't just about running anymore. It wasn't just about surviving. Everything had escalated, and now they had something far bigger to deal with. Lissa's secret was out, and the danger that came with it was unlike anything they had ever faced before. Jake sat on the edge of the bed, his thoughts spinning. What he had once thought was just a simple mission to help an alien woman escape her past had turned into a war against a powerful force. Lissa's father, Derek Velos, wasn't just a dangerous man. He was a key player in a system of corruption that spanned galaxies. He was part of the Zephyrin Council, and he would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. The secret that Lissa carried. Jake had known they couldn't hide forever, but the reality of their situation was settling in now. Derek Velos wouldn't just give up. The Council wouldn't just let this go. Lissa wasn't just running from one man. She was running from a whole system. Lissa had been staring out the window for a while, her eyes focused on the stars. Her expression was unreadable. It had been like this for days, her emotions hidden behind a mask of control. But Jake could see the cracks in that mask. The weight of what they were facing was wearing her down. Finally, Lissa turned to him. "We can't keep running, Jake," she said quietly, her voice tinged with a sadness that Jake hadn't heard before. "It's time we faced them." Jake looked at her, his heart heavy with uncertainty. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Lissa continued, her gaze intense, "we can't keep hiding in places like this, hoping that Derek will just forget about us. He's too powerful. The Zephyrin Council controls so much, Jake. We can't outrun them forever." Jake's mind raced. What Lissa was saying was true. They couldn't keep running. But what did facing them mean? Did that mean fighting? And if they fought, how could they stand a chance against a system that had so much power? "We have to get the information," Lissa said, reading Jake's thoughts. "We have to find what my mother left behind. If we can expose The smuggler studied them for a moment, then shrugged. "All right, but you better hope your plan works. Zephyra isn't a place you can just waltz into, especially with a couple of fugitives." "We're not planning to waltz in," Jake replied. "We're planning to sneak in and get what we need before anyone notices." Lissa stepped forward, her voice steady. "We don't have time to waste. The sooner we leave, the better." The smuggler raised an eyebrow, but said nothing more. He turned and gestured for them to board the ship. As the ship lifted off from Draconis Station and began its journey toward Zephyra, Jake felt the weight of the mission settle heavily on his shoulders. There was no turning back now. They were committed, and failure wasn't an option. They had to succeed. The trip to Zephyra was uneventful, but the closer they got to the planet, the more Jake could feel the tension building. Zephyra was a place of power, and Derek Villa's reach extended far beyond the Council. It was dangerous, but it was also their only hope. When they finally arrived in orbit around Zephyra, Jake and Lissa exchanged a look. This was it. The time had come. "Ready?" Jake asked, his voice quiet but determined. Lissa nodded, her expression resolute. "Let's do this." They descended into the planet's atmosphere, the ship shaking slightly as they passed through the layers of clouds. The air felt thick, heavy with the weight of everything that had led them here. Jake knew that what happened next would change everything. The reckoning was coming, and they would either be part of it, or they would be crushed by it.